Hi everyone, this is Irene and Prish, and today we'll be talking about entrepreneurship and being a woman. If you don't know me, I am the owner of foodHUNTER.tw, and we have decided to make little interviews about women under entrepreneurship. Actually, specifically all people, but I do want to focus on this amazing woman
Thank you.
because I've been following you over the past few days, and I watched you do your amazing work. And I did not know much about vegan food, and I was mind blown with the quality of food and the effort and the work you put in. So, beyond the video and beyond the mini documentary, I wanted to know more about you. So, we decided to make this podcast, and I hope you enjoy watching it. So, Prish, let's um, what's it like to be a woman entrepreneur in Taiwan?
It's fun. I have to say right off the bat, it's fun. It's stressful. I can't really say I've honestly had too many issues as a woman specifically. I've always worked with a business partner, and we've kind of, split the responsibilities in two, where he would take care of all the legal stuff and I would take care of the conceptualization of the company and the day-to-day running and strategy and marketing. And now working on my own as a consultant, because I've had all those years of experience, now it's pretty easy to do both the admin and the finances and the marketing and everything on my own. I find that my industry is male dominated. There's not a lot of female chefs out there, but those that I do follow, they are so talented. I think it's one of the hardest industries to be a chef, female chef, or a chef in general. F&B, food and beverages, is really, really hard. And then being a female chef on top of that, I don't know how this applies to other women, but certainly for me, it social life collapses. Your health, it takes a toll on your health, so you really have to be diligent about exercising when you can, because you're standing for 12 to 14 hours a day. But the rewards are rich because you get to work with people, present food, and do projects that are fun and deliver what your clients want. And I don't know if this is like a female thing, but I find like it's really easy for me to communicate with people, and it's easy for people to communicate back with me. I don't know if that's a female quality or a Prish quality, but that's something I really enjoy doing. I like listening to what's your brand concept, what do you want to see happen at your event, and then I love to turn that into a reality. And because I come from an artistic background, there's a lot of creative license in there that surprises people. So I think, I don't know if you can find an answer out of everything I just said, but
No, I mean, I think what you said is very interesting, actually.
yeah,
Because I think all entrepreneurs put a part of themselves
into
into
it.
the business.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see how the business runs and operate, like the personality also emerges like
Absolutely,
an artwork. I
absolutely.
feel like entrepreneurship is also art at the same time.
Yes, yes.
And I did not know that they could coexist because I myself am a very artistic person. But once I started the business, I noticed that you have to be creative.
Yeah.
You need creativity to make it happen and actually make a difference in somebody else's world.
Exactly.
So when you're presenting something, it's not just buy my stuff. It's like I'm telling you a story, and this story manifests through the products and the things I make.
Right.
And here it is.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to make a living out of it. I mean, I think that is very powerful.
It is very powerful. I like what you said about your identity goes into your business. There's a light and shadow side to that. On the one hand, if you're not careful, you over identify your entire self with that business, and then the success or failure of that business impacts you psychologically, which is so unhealthy. And at the same time, I feel like when you build a business, it develops a life of its own, and so you have to learn to dance with it, to grow it, and to respect its own organic nature outside of you as an individual. And I find that that dynamic, I got screwed up with the first business I ran because I took every bit of feedback so seriously, and it impacted me so deeply. And now I'm learning, no, that's its own thing, and I'm my own person. So yeah. And the second thing you said about creativity, I think there's a lot of people out there who think, well, I'm either creative or I'm either strategic, I'm either rational or I'm either artistic, and that's such a fallacy, because you need creativity to approach your finances. You need creativity to approach a consistent rhythm of working. People often think of consistency as like a left brain. Is the left brain rational or is the right brain?
Right, left brain.
The left brain's rational. So you think of consistency as a left brain thing, but actually I feel it takes a lot of artistic discipline to be working consistently. So yeah, I feel creativity permeates every part of your business.
Do you think it's very different to run a restaurant compared to running a catering business?
Oh, it was such a great question, Irene. I think about this every day, and it weighs a lot on my mind, because the thing is, when you run a restaurant and you have a location, it creates a very strong, undeniable, emotional impression of who you are. You walk in and people see the color choices on the wall and the layout of the restaurant and the type of wood you use on the table and the flow of service, and suddenly you have a specific value in people's minds without even being on the floor. Okay, so it's like a mythological impression of you. But when you're working as a caterer, you only have an impression of yourself on the internet, which in today's age is relevant. It has its own strength, but I feel like you have to do it a little bit more convincing to let people know that you're worthwhile as a chef. But honestly, like when you do a first few events, then it gets around by word of mouth. So for example, I think it was in 2016, I did a destination wedding for a Malaysian couple at, do you know this Gugong, the National Palace
Yes,
Museum?
I do.
So very nearby there is a beautiful artistic center, an event space called Socio. Sorry, I get the name. It's SIU. And it's in the middle of the mountains near Gugong. And they just have this large, beautiful, airy black top kind of, it's not like a top, it's like an organic material, and it lets the light in. And they have sculptures, and they have bits of trees, and they have a kitchen space and flowers everywhere. So we had that wedding there. And they remembered me from 2016 and recommended me in 2020 for my latest catering event that we went to together. So word of mouth is definitely powerful. Yeah.
Do you feel it's more powerful than a restaurant?
This is a very emotional topic for me, because I feel like a restaurant is a safe haven. It's everything that you are is in that space, and your identity and your energy and your spirit. I feel like it does not compare to having a restaurant.
Right.
Certainly it does not. Yeah.
So what are the typical challenges you encounter on a daily basis, and how do you overcome it?
Okay. I'm in a very specific position now of working as a consultant chef, working as an independent caterer, and working as the production chef for my online company, and working as a workshop teacher at different locations and at my house. And the challenge that I find to be quite noticeable is that if I don't find the drive and the will to produce something for people to come towards, then I don't make money. I don't have that sense of moving towards my big goal. So if I had to define that as one challenge, the self-reliance that I have to feel is kind of overwhelming at times. There's no team around me. There's no salaries to pay. There's no business partner to be my muse. So I just really have to constantly feed my intellect, my imagination, and remind myself that if I make the thing, it will happen. But I have to be able to have the energy to make the thing. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yes, I
think
do.
in your position, you have the same situation, right?
Yeah, because when you're doing marketing, now that the whole marketing space has changed,
So much.
I feel that you have to hustle constantly. You have to remind yourselves to people because there's just so much noise. There's so many people shouting at people on social media, all these
Right.
ads popping up, and people are very quickly distracted and they forget about you
Right.
fairly quickly. So what I do for clients and people I do marketing on behalf of them is that I do have a social media calendar. I actually hold all the content that will be posted beforehand. I prepare it months ahead sometimes,
Yeah.
and I put them on a third-party software where the posts are scheduled.
Nice.
Because I noticed that it's very draining too. And you know, every single time, what am I going to post? What am I going to talk about? What imagery am I going to choose? How am I going to tell my story? These are just questions, and then you can't focus on your work
Right.
because there's so much more going on in the background simultaneously. So a lot of marketers have moved on scheduling, but then you lose the simultaneity, you know, the spontaneity.
The spontaneity, yeah.
You know, you don't, when you're trying to do something spontaneous, it
Yeah.
doesn't work out either. So a lot of people now, it's becoming more artificial at the same time, like Christmas. Okay, let's start in, I don't know, let's start planning for Christmas in March for next year. So a lot of people, by the end of 2020, the whole 2021 calendar is produced. So there's a balance. Do I plan ahead?
Yeah.
Or am I spontaneous? Do I tell my story beforehand? Do I curate it? Or am I genuine and it's just on the spot? So that's a very difficult choice to make, and I think marketers are moving to other methods at the same time. Like, my company has moved to video quite a bit.
Yeah, smart move.
I fought against it a lot because I'm a reader and I love looking at pictures. But the whole trends, like by 2025, I think 2/3 of all media is going to be video.
Right.
And it is a very nice choice at the same time because it's a very fun medium. But I think people will have to adapt and they will need help. I mean, I don't want to talk about me all the time, but one of the reasons why I built foodHUNTER is to help people do marketing, to tell their stories better, so they can focus on what they do, and they can have a little outlet that goes to marketing. So my website is a search engine, but it's also a marketing machine. So it's evergreen, so it's not a thread. So most blogs and websites go downwards, and finding them again is very difficult. So the content is searchable, and you can use the search engine. And by being in the network, you will, like, because I will be running all the ads,
Right.
there will be more people, you will become more visible, there will be more people seeing you. And as you say, like, telling how good you are and asking people to come all the time is very draining.
Yeah.
We're usually very hesitant about it. We're hesitant about wanting to present this because it's in exchange of money. And then I feel as women, maybe, or maybe it's culture, I don't know if it's about being a woman or about culture, we're not allowed to ask for money for such a long time until our professional lives.
Yeah.
When we're children, we don't constantly ask for money from our parents. We have an allowance.
You had an
set.
allowance.
I don't know. Some people do. Some people don't. And then your
I
needs
just,
are met anyway.
I just found, like, when I was a kid, you barter as a girl child. You barter for money. It's emotional manipulation. Daddy, please, and then you get the money if you're a good girl.
Yeah.
And about getting paid as an adult, I had to have a moment of reckoning early in my career, very early. Otherwise, I wouldn't have survived so long. But you reach a point where, what's that phrase? You know, you do the kitchen work, you do the scrubbing on the floor, and then suddenly, like, hey, I did it. Now this is my value, and you have to approach your your work with a very, we spoke about being bold earlier,
Yeah.
with a boldness to say, this is my value, this is my
Yes.
price. And people really respect that. But then you must deliver on that.
Yeah, of course.
No negotiations.
I mean,
But I also don't think it's like a male female thing. I think there's a lot of young male entrepreneurs who struggle with the same thing. I have a very lovely young French friend, and he makes the most amazing vegan caramel. And we have these conversations about pricing strategy and what to ask for and what's appropriate and what's the value. And money is so emotional, isn't it? We attach so much of, am I worthwhile? Am I worth enough to ask for this price for this product? Which really, in the end, as I said earlier, it has its own life, its own energy. But yeah, working through that, it's difficult for many people. Yeah.
book recommendation. I recently read
Yeah.
Harvard Business Review's Selling the Invisible. And it was very eye-opening because everything is actually a service, even shoes. Like when you're purchasing something, there is a promise that is being delivered. You're not actually selling the product. You're selling a prospect, a potential.
Right.
So catering, it's invisible. You can't know if it's good until you taste it.
Yeah.
So marketing it is very difficult. Marketing is very difficult too.
Period,
That-
yeah.
it, like, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's challenging because the result, you promise a result, but it's not visible until you get into it. So
That's true.
I think that book was very helpful for if there are any fellow entrepreneurs who want to learn more about marketing and selling a promise. Please read the book. I'll leave a link below. And
What's the name of the book again?
Selling the Invisible.
Selling the Invisible. I love it already.
So, what type of advice? Let me just cut from here. What type of advice would you provide to a female entrepreneur who is just starting out in Taiwan?
Don't spend too much time planning. Don't wait for that feeling of, okay, I'm ready to arrive, because that never arrives. Don't question your idea too much. You should question it. It should provide a service, a benefit. It should be easy and accessible. It should be priced properly, and it shouldn't cost you your health and well-being to produce it. And don't wait for the perfect idea. Do something functional and easy just to jump off the cliff, and you'll grow those wings as, I hate that phrase so much, but it's so relevant. You will learn to fly, guaranteed. Because the way the brain works is that it's just equipped to teach and learn and adapt at such a fast rate that when you do take those, the first step is the biggest step of launching yourself. And once you take that step, your ability to pick up information and adapt your behavior to changing markets and consumer needs, it's super fast. I was blown away with myself, like how fast I learned and how fast I changed. Obviously, a lot of expats, the culture of being an expat is you don't have the luxury of studying your industry in your home country. You are in a foreign culture. You come here maybe for a year to take a break, but then you become an adult in a different country. So your method of learning is completely different. I love it. We think we were talking about how you're such a self-taught person. Your brain is so unique to adapting and developing in spontaneous situations, and you do it so well. And I think I'm a little bit the same, and a lot of businesses that launched here started in that way. So I would say, don't waste time with trying to find that perfect idea. Just launch the thing and then let life carry you and carry your business. And if you have the ability to not be freaked out by setbacks and not be overwhelmed by being tired, and if you have a financially savvy brain, and this one's very important, if you can remove your ego, and if you can see yourself as your brand and the self-responsibility you have to promote your brand, which happens to be you or your product, then you do it 150%. Because a lot of people get so hung up on being shy about saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, please hire me, use me, buy my thing. But that's just your ego getting in the way of you running smoothly with representing yourself as a brand. Start the idea and go and just learn along the way.
I think I will take this advice home because I did not want to be in front of
Yeah.
the business. I hid behind the business because the business was just so pretty. I mean, what if, it's like, what if they know it's a woman of color who doesn't know that much Chinese behind it? Actually, my site is fully bilingual, and I hire a really good translator to make sure that it is fully bilingual.
Right.
But I was very afraid of speaking up and being
Yeah.
out there. And talking to you made me realize that actually the right approach is to be out there and to be seen and visible.
Yes.
Because when there's a human behind the business, which I'm enabling so many people and letting people know that there are people behind these businesses and I actually do their films. But I was not applying the same principles to myself. I was always
Yeah,
hiding behind the camera and the website and the ads and everything. So I do think that a lot of people should take that home, because there are so many businesses that are, and I feel like people, like, I did not know the name of your brand that much yet, but I knew that there was a Prish out there. There's Prish, and she's cooking and she's doing these vegan things.
That's
and
great.
She's like a success and everybody knows her name. So I do think that you have just, you're doing an amazing job at promoting your business. Actually, I once I started following you, I found out that you do home catering through Lulamove every Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to try it. So,
Cool.
if you do it on the Thursday, my husband can be at home. And
Cool.
we can try.
But just one more thing about that marketing yourself. I don't want to make it sound like I just hit the ground running. I had huge self-esteem issues around being the face of my company, and my old ex-business partner had to motivate me so much to convince me, you are the brand, people come not just for you, not just for the food, but to meet you. And I actually had to have paid sessions with another restaurant chef who's an incredibly talented businessman, Bob Chow of Merlot. And he did a few sessions with me where he showed me how to walk through the restaurant and how to say hello to people and how to just get over myself. So there was a process involved. There was an awkward moment.
So I have an immense love for restaurants and restaurant entrepreneurs because two of my uncles and my grandmother ran restaurants.
Yeah.
And they always had said hello to the guests, and it's actually a very social job.
It is.
And
It is.
when kids had their birthdays, my elder uncle would go over and he would actually bring ice cream to the kid with candles and like little sparkles on them, and he would please them, and I think it had a lasting effect.
Yeah.
And one of Turkey's most famous gourmets, actually, in one of his interviews, said that his best childhood memory was going to my grandmother's restaurant. And I was so proud because I grew up in between the walls of a restaurant.
That's
and
amazing.
I remember playing in the empty restaurant while they were prepping back in the kitchen, and we had many, many chefs. So, my fondest memories from my childhood in Istanbul are just in restaurants and the food industry. So
amazing.
I have a particular affinity to people who are in the food business like you.
Cool.
So what would you like to change in the food industry in Taiwan through your work?
Ooh. What would I like to change in the food industry? You mean in terms
Like bring something new?
what would I like to contribute?
Yeah.
Taipei is like a food mecca. There's so much amazing food here, so much creativity, so many global cultures represented, so much fusion, and we've got Michelin, and we've got the grandmothers and the sidewalk. Oh gosh, it's a utopia. All I can hope is to find my people who just like my food. I'm not willing to enter into any competition with anybody,
Of
but
course, you can't anyway.
but
Everyone's
it's so
unique.
different, and every restaurant has their people. I just want to find my people and make good food that makes them feel sustained. I used to have these really lofty high-arching goals and
Uh-huh.
dreams, but life taught me that the simple meal is the best meal.
Yeah, I fell in love with your pie. I fell in love with your moussaka.
The lemon
And
pie.
I just love your cheese.
Thank
Your cheese is
you.
amazing.
Thank you so much.
And I do not like vegan cheese normally.
Right.
Like, confession. And your food is not just for vegans.
No.
I think when people taste your food, they notice that it's not just for plant-based people.
Right.
It actually it's very eye-opening for omnivores, and it's an invitation to explore alternatives.
Absolutely.
Um,
When we were running the restaurant, 90% of our clientele were meat eaters.
oh,
Our flavors are robust and daring and conceptual, and we had wine pairing menus. And I think, I just wanted to appeal to people who just love the indulgence of food and wine. It doesn't matter what's on the plate, as long as it's delicious.
there are lots of layers and notes because I do plant-based dishes obviously, but usually they're very bland. So I like your boldness and your willingness to experiment and you have Indian heritage. So in the moussaka you had these layers of spices that it had never occurred to me that you could actually use those spices in a moussaka.
Yeah,
And
like the cinnamon, right? That's my personal favorite.
it was just, it was very eye-opening. And I think I myself, sometimes I do have prejudice towards plant-based foods.
Sure.
And it definitely shifted something in me.
Right.
So thank you so much for
My
letting
pleasure.
me taste your food while filming. It was really nice. What are the best tips for entrepreneurs, foreign entrepreneurs, who are not very fluent in Chinese? Do you ever encounter problems with that, or how do you overcome those challenges?
It is debilitating to enter into business without bilingual ability. I certainly faced such a challenge with that. I felt disempowered, limited, and it's not just understanding the language, but it's the transference of the cultural nuance that comes with the language. You understand people's psychology through the language, and if you don't have access to that, you're kind of dismembered. Parts of you are amputated. You're functioning on the periphery of this cauldron that you're supposed to be the master of. And I chastise myself for learning Chinese so late in my time in Taiwan, but at the same time, the biggest volume of Chinese I learned was in the kitchen, where none of the staff could speak English. So I literally had a whiteboard on the wall, and every word that was new, I would write it down, look at it, chop, look at it, chop, look at it, chop, and I picked up vocab like that. But that's just on the communication within an organization level. You've got to show your team that you are willing to make that effort. Otherwise, you're just a laoban on the outside. It's just like, oh no, it's hierarchical when you do that. But when you learn Chinese, you're opening a lateral space. You're inviting people to consider you as an involvement, rather than just like an outside voice. And I'm very passionate about this, Irene, because I've just seen, my team or my friends would have a comment about how somebody coming in would never make an effort, and it hurts them, it hurts their feelings. And why the hell are you so lazy being in a country and not learning something as basic as the language? And by no means am I fluent. I have no idea how to read contracts. I put them through Google Translate, but still, I wish I could read contracts. I would say that as you're running your business, learn the language in tandem, or if you have the luxury of time, go to the universities and lock your ass down and sit down for 6 months and learn every day before you even start your company. Because you could be one of those expats that has a Taiwanese business partner that does all that, like the contracts, the tax, the everything of that nature. But if you want to be a business owner, you've got to learn that lexicon as well. how to read a contract, how to write a contract, how to negotiate a contract, how to represent yourself at the tax office, how to represent yourself at the labor bureau, because it's so comfortable and slightly numb to be like the business partner and just sitting there all dumb while your partner does all the communication. But you don't truly know how to run a business until you know how to have that level of communication. It's a high standard to reach, and I'm not there, but so I'm not preaching. It's certainly a goal that I'm setting for myself to get to that level, because I've been burned. I've been burned really, really badly. Had a falling out with my business partner, and had this whole, I want to swear right now, this whole pile of documents, and I had no idea which was the registration document and which was the license for this and this and that. And I just sat down in tears one day, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so dumb.
Well, you're not dumb. I myself am fluent in Chinese. I can speak because my parents spoke in Chinese with me, and I can get along. But because, I'm Asian looking and I'm not business proficient, I sound really dumb sometimes.
I doubt that.
It is a very big disadvantage. They're like, your Chinese is really good. And then there's a whole set of vocabulary that I'm not familiar with.
Right.
Because I did not study or live
Business,
here until I moved here. So get help if you're not fluent in Chinese. Hire an accountant. Ask a friend you trust, and try to make sure that you know what you're signing and you know what you're doing.
Right.
It is very intimidating because I took 6 months at Shida. I learned how to read and write in Chinese. I did not know how to do that. And then I hired a tutor, and we actually read newspapers and magazines and business magazines and all that to be familiarized. But again, as you said, I've only been here for 6 years, so I'm not there yet either.
Right.
And it's whenever I encounter these things, you can't build a business. You can live here and you can make a living, but if you're an entrepreneur, building a business is something different, and you have to know the language.
I feel like I went on a really mad rant and I didn't give any tips.
But no, actually, the takeaway is learn Chinese.
Well, also I want to say, because Taiwan has set a goal to become a fully bilingual country by 2030. So now it's easier to do business in Taiwan without needing so much to rely on Chinese. So a lot of government websites will have all beautiful English like this. How do you pay tax as a foreigner in Taiwan? You go to the English link and it's all there. And a lot of the officials speak English now. So yeah, it's not so hard to do business in Taiwan without Chinese, but it's just going to give you an added edge, in my opinion.
To present yourself, to tell your story to clients, the majority of your clientele is going to be
appreciative.
They're not good. A lot of them are not going to know any English at all.
Yeah.
That's also the catch.
Right.
Like, even if you have amazing pictures, if you have amazing marketing copy, even if you have amazing brochures, if they're not in Chinese, you're not going to be able to expand your brand. You're just going to stay in a very small niche and a bubble that is constantly circulating. Like the expats do not stay here. A lot of them don't stick around so you might not have recurring customers. So
you never grow that way.
No, you can't. No. I mean, despite me doing a lot of stuff in English, this podcast will be hopefully translated into Chinese as well, with Chinese subtitles, so everybody can understand. And I am looking for people who are to be featured and who are Chinese speakers. So if you want to be on my videos, just text me. You can send a video. You can send an email through my
What's your
my
email?
channel. Well, I'll put the link below.
Okay, we'll put the link below.
Yeah, we'll put the link below. Or in my channel information, they have this little button where you can disclose the email.
Cool.
Yeah, you can send a message, you can write a comment. And so thank you so much for letting me do this, Prish.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And thank you for letting me film you. I think this podcast will come out after the videos, because it's more like a, interview that is like post-production. So we will probably air this after the videos are out. But thank you so much for being the first feature. And I
It's my
am really
pleasure.
honored to be able to tell your story.
Thank you, Irene.
And well, we'll see you next time. And we'll say goodbye. Bye.
Bye.